It's a tremendous pleasure for me because I think that all of us who are here in this room, without a single exception, really believe in the cause. And I think that to be able to unabashedly and completely talk about what was called these collaborative conversations are, I think, the real essence of a conference like that. It's not the presentations, though they are also nice, but I think that we should talk to each other. I'm here to learn. All of you have done so much work and have so much wisdom to share. So please talk to each other and certainly to me about it. I'll start here we were talking about these goodbyes, and there are many of them that we have talked about. And particularly after COVID, there was a sense of urgency on the panel to really come up with something that we could really offer countries around the world in terms of what we knew, what evidence we had, how to really curate good evidence from bad evidence, how to really collate it and all that. But I think more than that, what is really important is how do you go from global evidence to local context? And I think that the smart buys are not meant as what I call a canned, top-down, donor-driven prescription. It's not do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. I think that smart buys has to be seen as the beginning of a conversation. And I think that the conversation that, for instance, we are having here today, I think is really important, is how to really contextualize smart buys. So what I'm going to do is take one of the smart buys, I think, which is really important, which all of us at one level who are thinking about education do believe in. I think there's lots of evidence and data around the world now. And what I want to do is to see how to take this smart buy, which is based on foundational learning, adjust instruction, support teachers, leverage existing technology. How do you really implement a program like that? And how do you really think about a program like that in the context of Pakistan? So I and a bunch of my co-authors, and my team is right here, they're sitting here from SERP. We've been working for now close to, or more than 2 decades now, on questions like this. So let's see, take something like this, which is a smart buy, which we all agree, which we think is important, but how do we really go about it in Pakistan? Okay, so one of the first things Smart Buys report says is learning losses is really being measured systematically in low and middle income countries. We do it. There is data of different sorts. I mean, there's PEC and there is L&D and there's different kinds of data, but they are, I would say, not measured systematically. And we know that before COVID, from USSR and from LEAPS and other places, that a learning crisis existed before COVID in Pakistan. We do know that. And from my own studies in the earthquake and COVID-induced school closures happened at a scale which was unprecedented. Some estimates say that children in Pakistan in 2020 attended school for only 60 days out of the standard 250 school days. So while we have a good sense of what happened before COVID, what really happened after COVID? So I think that the first question is, did COVID-19 school closures exacerbate existing learning crisis in Pakistan? So you take something about a learning crisis and try to get as much evidence as you can about what's going on post-COVID. And so what we did is in May of 2022, so this is pretty recent, and then September 2022, we worked with the KP government, public schools in 2 districts in KP, and 1,250 randomly selected public schools. So these are representative in KP. And we tested every single child in those, in grades 1 through 5 in those schools. That's 200,000 kids. That's a lot of kids. Believe me, our team went through it and tested them ourselves. So that's a lot of work. And then we also have a good partnership with the ICT, the federal ministry, and all the schools in Islamabad. So this includes both the public schools and BECs as well. So about 70,000 kids. So this gives us a pretty big sample in terms of thinking about learning. And the tests were based on foundational learning, student learning objectives from the national curriculum. So I'm not saying what kids should know. It's you, by what I mean is the country itself decides what are the learning objectives, and what we picked from those, one would call the foundational learning objectives. So the test is based on that. So what do we find? Okay, so this is the first diagnostic result. Basically, you can see in KP that a vast majority of the kids need remediation. Okay, This is class 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's pretty obvious. EMU, English, Math, and Urdu. And the maroon is the kids who need remediation. So, and this is, they have been in school for now a year, right? So this is about May 2021, September, they started going back to school. So that's what we see. But the beauty of our test, if you want to take foundational learning seriously, is to go something like this, is how much remediation do they need? Okay, so it's not just that they need remediation, so we can pinpoint every single child on what SLO they know, and one of the things is, so these are kids on how many grade year SLOs they are behind, okay? So for example, just pick any of these graphs, and what you will find is that this is at the end of class 3 in math, for instance. If you pick the middle of that highlighted row, is 14% of the kids, that's the yellow one, are 1 grade level behind. 74% are 2 grade levels behind. Okay, look at 5th grade English, right? For example, in 5th grade English, the real bottom, right? 17% of these kids are like at a KG level. Okay. So, so we can actually not only get the extent of learning losses at the learning levels, but we can exactly pinpoint where the kids are. And I can tell you exactly whether these kids know fractions, whether these kids know addition, how are they good at word problems. So we have this entire linked database fully operational. Okay, so what we did is, our version of adjusted instruction is what we call TIP, the Targeted Instruction Program. And this is a typical targeted instruction program. So in the beginning, you diagnose learning. So that's the first most important thing. So you diagnose learning, map learning gaps. Then what you do is you sort students according to the level. So the ambassador and everybody else has talked about teaching to the child, not to the curriculum, not to the subject matter, not to the teacher's preferences. And then you sort students across so that you know which students within a class know it. So one big thing that you see in this data, which in Pakistan is particularly important, is lots of learning dispersion within the same classroom. We had a discussion earlier about multi-grade teaching and how difficult it is. It's not just multi-grade teaching. Any single classroom in Pakistan, particularly if you start thinking of public schools and low-income areas, there's lots of variation within a classroom. It's a challenge on how to teach the same material to kids with such different learning levels coming in. Then what you do is target instruction. We worked a lot with the government and with some very NGOs like DIL to really create 40 activity-based lessons to tailor instructions. And a lot of innovative pedagogy. 5 minutes, I just got started. Okay, track learning. Okay. Teacher support, very important. You need to create teacher support. I'm just going to rush through these slides, okay? So you can read, right? Okay, and then this is the technology support. So this is a tech tool which has home screen, grading, sorting, analytics, training. So technology is not being used to teach students. Technology is used to assist the teacher. And particularly if you look at sorting, that's very important, and then also for analytics, and I'll talk to you about it. Okay, so these are the study samples that we have, and in Islamabad, what we are also doing is have another part of the intervention, which is working with parents. So in KP, it's solely the school. In Islamabad, it's also the parents, okay? So lots of teachers. Okay, so this is the largest sample. I mean, I've been working in Pakistan for 25 years. This is the largest sample of teachers that I've worked with, okay? Okay, so yes, we need TIP. Certainly, there is a problem. So it's not like the advisory panel is coming up with a solution for which there's no problem. There is a problem in Pakistan, okay? So what do we do? And implementation, Rachel talked about it, and everybody thinks about implementation. So this is what we are saying, right? And I want to be very concrete about it, not abstract. So this idea that you have ownership and all that. So I want to take you through exactly the process which we went through in how to really create this. And I want to talk about 2 levels of ownership. One is at the system level, what we call, and the other is at the teacher level. Because in the bottom line, everybody knows the instruction has to be provided by the teacher. And these are the constraints that we talk about. So I think COVID did create a sense of urgency. So at the higher level, there wasn't any resistance or anything. In fact, people were very, very eager. So Pakistan, typically we are very cynical about Pakistan. People don't do this, people don't do that. We did not find any of that. I think there was a sense, and in between, while we were talking about it, the government also changed and all that, and there's always a lot of bureaucratic turnover. But throughout this whole process, at the high level, there was something, and these are the people that we talked to. Okay, so this is just one part If I show you the total organogram of the KP education department, it doesn't fit on one slide. So I'm just showing you one part of it. And this is what we call the departments. Okay, so you have to work with a lot of departments within an organization. So departments, for example, are, that a curriculum has to be approved, teacher training has to be designed, master trainers have to be recruited, and then the overall program has to be approved. So a lot of negotiations at this level. And then very important at the district level, but even going below the district level, which is the assistant district level. So, there are all these different tiers that you have to go through. So I don't want to really talk about, I think this is, Pakistan mein, one thing we should stop is doing these stakeholder conversations. This is the real stakeholders that are implementing the program. So it doesn't happen in Islamabad, the secretaries, it's these guys who matter, okay? And then teachers. Okay, the good news, okay, so there's a lot of good news here. The good news is we were really worried that teachers would say, hey, who the hell are you guys telling us to change pedagogy? So we did a very large teacher survey of every single teacher. There's a big baseline survey, and these were the beliefs that we had. Teachers believe, 85% of the teachers believe students are far behind. Teachers know what's going on. It's not that teachers were clueless. 94% of the teachers said it is important to experiment with new teaching methods in this current environment. It's not us saying that, it's the teachers saying that. 33% of the teachers, so it's only 33% of the teachers believe they should stick to the pace of the curriculum, and only 16% of the people believe that we should just keep on business as usual. So good news did not have to convince the teachers. What were the teachers worried about? Teachers were worried about extra burden. Every place in the world, if somebody, my dean comes to me and says, do something, no, I'm too busy, right? That's a normal thing. So what we did is, this is a big debate in adjusted instruction. Should you do it after the fact, before the fact, what should we do? TIP is now part of the regular timetable. We did not put in extra hours for them. But that required suspension of regular classes for 40 days. That is a big step by KP. The secretary was here earlier. Kudos to him and his predecessor for really going through that. Then solution 2, teachers were really worried about grading. So this targeted instruction requires a lot of work by teachers of formative quizzes, assessments. It's a lot of work. So the technology really helps, and they really like that. And then they needed pedagogical support, and then most importantly, regulatory oversight. The teachers were really worried that it's not just the notification by the secretary that matters, it's the AEOs. The AEOs are right now empowered to go into a school and check what curriculum, what page the teacher is on in terms of the curriculum. So we had to tell the teachers to stop doing that. Okay, so TIP is designed as a scalable and sustainable solution for budget constraint settings. Technology, I'm going to be speaking tomorrow on technology also. And we went with a smartphone. So this is all data driven. So this is all local context driven. Smartphone access and confidence you can see in teachers. So smartphone, WhatsApp, SMS, that's the technology that Pakistanis are familiar with. You can't come up with giving them some fancy technology. You've got to work with what they're familiar with. So we went with a smartphone.